What the fuck is up with these NFL coaching searches? It's a goddamn shit show every year.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Coaches are getting fired left and right on Black Monday. Rumors flying everywhere, teams scrambling to find their next supposed savior. What the hell is Black Monday anyway?
Black Monday is basically the day after the regular season ends when teams typically fire their underperforming coaches.
So it's like a bloodbath for coaches who didn't make the playoffs or meet expectations. Makes sense. But seriously, why the fuck do they fire these coaches after just one bad season? It's like they expect miracles every goddamn year.
Well, the NFL is all about, what have you done for me lately? There's a ton of pressure to win, and owners are often impatient for results.
So if a coach doesn't deliver, they're quick to pull the trigger.
Exactly.
So let's talk about Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. This dude has a reputation for being a defensive mastermind. What is it about his defensive schemes that makes him so effective?
He's known for his aggressive, unpredictable blitzing schemes that confuse the hell out of quarterbacks. Instead of just sending extra rushers, he disguises his coverages and brings pressure from unexpected angles.
Like a chess match, constantly keeping offenses guessing.
Exactly.
I've heard people say that his defenses are complex. Is that true?
His schemes can be pretty intricate, but they're also adaptable. He tailors his game plan to exploit the weaknesses of each opponent. He's not just running the same plays every week, he's constantly evolving and innovating.
But this isn't his first rodeo. Didn't he have a head coaching gig with the Miami Dolphins?
You're right. He led the Dolphins for 3 seasons with back-to-back winning seasons in his second and third years. But then, boom, they fired him. It seemed pretty shocking to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Why fire a coach with back-to-back winning seasons?
There were reports of friction between Flores and the Dolphins front office, particularly with general manager Chris Grier. They reportedly disagreed on personnel decisions, draft picks, and the overall direction of the team.
So it was a power struggle. Ego clashing.
That's a fair assessment. Some sources also suggest that Flores' intense, demanding personality might have rubbed some people the wrong way.
Wait, so they fired him because he's a hard ass?
It's not that simple. There were clearly multiple factors at play. But it's worth noting that head coaching in the NFL isn't just about X's and O's. It's also about managing relationships, navigating office politics, and aligning your vision with the front office.
But let's not forget the elephant in the room, race. Flores didn't just walk away quietly after being fired. He filed a lawsuit against the N.F.L., accusing them of racial discrimination in their hiring practices.
Right. The lawsuit was a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the league. Flores specifically called out the New York Giants for what he claimed was a sham interview, alleging that they had already decided to hire Brian Daboll before even interviewing him.
So basically, they were just going through the motions to make it look like they were considering minority candidates.
That's what Flores alleged in his lawsuit. He also claimed that the Denver Broncos conducted a similarly disingenuous interview with him a few years earlier.
What the fuck is the Rooney Rule anyway? Is that just bullshit PR to make the NFL look less racist?
The Rooney Rule is a league policy that requires teams to interview at least one minority candidate for head coaching and senior football operation positions. It was implemented in 2003 to try and address the lack of diversity in NFL coaching ranks.
So they're forcing these teams to interview minority candidates, but they're still not hiring them. What's the point?
That's the crux of the issue. While the Rooney Rule has led to more interviews for minority candidates, it hasn't necessarily translated into more head coaching jobs.
Yeah, that shit is fucked up. What about Flores' time with the Vikings? The dude took a defense that was ranked near the bottom of the league and transformed them into a top-ranked unit. How the hell did he do that?
He brought his aggressive, unpredictable defensive schemes to Minnesota, and the players bought into his system. He also seems to have a knack for getting the most out of his players, even guys who weren't considered stars before they played for him.
You're telling me he's a miracle worker?
Not exactly. He's a brilliant defensive mind who understands how to maximize his players' strengths and exploit opponents' weaknesses. And he demands accountability and a relentless work ethic from his players.
So he's like a drill sergeant, but a really smart one.
He's definitely got an intense, no-nonsense approach, but he also seems to command respect and loyalty from his players. They play hard for him.
Okay, so he's a badass coach with a killer track record. But after all this shit with the Dolphins and the lawsuit, is any team gonna touch him?
That's the big question. Some teams might be hesitant to hire him, fearing potential controversy or further legal issues, but other teams might see his talent and his willingness to fight for what he believes in as valuable assets.
So basically it's a gamble. But is it really a risk if he's as good as everyone says he is?
Well, that's the dilemma for NFL teams. Do they play it safe and go with a more conventional, less controversial controversial candidate? Or do they take a chance on a potentially transformative coach who might just shake things up?
It's a tough call.
Yeah.
But let's be real. If Flores were white, do you think teams would be so hesitant?
That's a provocative question, and it's one that many people are asking. It's impossible to ignore the fact that the NFL has a long and troubling history of racial inequality, particularly when it comes to head coaching positions.
It's not just history. It's happening right now. Look at the numbers. The majority of players are black, but the vast majority of head coaches are white. Something's not adding up.
You're right. The disparity is glaring, and Flores' lawsuit has shone a spotlight on this issue, forcing the NFL to confront its systemic problems.
So what happens next? Does Flores get another shot at being a head coach? Does his lawsuit actually change anything?
That's what we're going to explore in the rest of this discussion. We'll examine Flores' potential landing spots, the potential impact of his lawsuit, and what his story tells us about the state of the NFL.
Let's get into it.
Let's dive a little deeper into Flores' coaching style. You mentioned his aggressive and unpredictable blitzing schemes. Could you elaborate on what makes them so unique and effective?
Yeah, this guy is all about controlled chaos. Like a mad scientist out there throwing everything at the offense to see what sticks. He loves to disguise his coverages and send pressure from all angles. One minute you got a linebacker blitzing off the edge. The next minute it's a safety coming out of nowhere.
It's not just sending extra rushers for the sake of it, though. He's creating confusion, forcing quarterbacks to make quick decisions under duress. He understands offensive line protections and knows how to exploit their weaknesses.
But doesn't that aggressive style leave his secondary vulnerable? What if the blitz doesn't get there?
He's not afraid to take risks, but they're calculated risks. He trusts his defensive backs to hold their own in man coverage. And he often uses creative blitz packages that only send 4 or 5 rushers, but disguises their paths so effectively that the offense can't pick them up.
I've also heard he's really good at developing players.
True. Absolutely. He's known for getting the most out of guys who were overlooked or considered backups on other teams. He has a knack for identifying their strengths and putting them in positions to succeed.
I guess that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. He demands accountability, pushes his players to be their best.
Right. He sets a high standard and expects everyone to buy in. If you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to last long in his system. But if you are willing to work hard and learn word, he'll give you a chance to prove yourself regardless of your draft status or previous experience.
So let's say some team is ballsy enough to hire this guy. What kind of team would be the best fit for him?
He needs a team that's willing to embrace his aggressive, defensive-minded philosophy. A team that's not afraid to take risks and go against the grain.
He's definitely not going to work for some conservative old-school owner who wants to run the ball and play it safe.
Exactly. He needs a team with a forward-thinking front office that trusts his vision and gives him the autonomy to build his defense the way he sees fit.
And what about the quarterback? Would he need a certain type of quarterback to succeed?
A mobile quarterback who can extend plays and make throws under pressure would be ideal. Someone who's not afraid to take a hit and can handle his aggressive play calling. But ultimately, it's more about finding a quarterback who's intelligent, tough, and willing to buy into his system.
So let's play a little fantasy football here. What teams do you think would be a good fit for Flores?
Well, the Arizona Cardinals have a young, talented quarterback in Kyler Murray and a defense that could use a spark. Flores' aggressive style might be a perfect complement to Murray's dynamic playmaking ability.
What about the Houston Texans? They're rebuilding and need a strong leader to set the tone.
That could be an intriguing option. They have a young roster with a lot of potential, and Flores has a proven track record of developing young talent, but they need to be patient and give him time to build his culture.
Okay, one more. How about the Denver Broncos? They've got a solid defense, but have struggled to find a consistent quarterback.
The Broncos could be a dark horse candidate. They have a strong defensive tradition and a new ownership group that might be looking to make a splash. And Flores has a history with the Broncos, albeit a somewhat contentious one. Remember, he claimed they conducted a sham interview with him a few years back? It would be quite the storyline if they ended up hiring him now.
That would be some poetic justice, wouldn't it? But let's get back to reality for a second.
Right. We've been talking about all the reasons why a team might want to hire Flores, but let's not forget about the potential downsides.
You mean the lawsuit, the controversy?
Exactly. Some teams might be hesitant to bring him on board, fearing that he'll be a distraction or that he'll clash with their front office. They might worry about the potential for negative publicity or even further legal action.
But isn't that just giving in to the bullshit? It's like they're punishing him for speaking out against racism.
It's a complex situation with no easy answers. Teams have to weigh the potential benefits of hiring a talented coach against the potential risks of associating with someone who's been involved in a high-profile lawsuit against the league.
It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. But let's be honest, if Flores were white, none of this would even be a conversation.
That's a valid point. It's impossible to separate this discussion from the larger issue of race and and opportunity in the NFL.
The fact that we're even having this conversation is a testament to the systemic problems that still exist in the league.
No.
It's fucked up.
It is, and it's going to take a lot more than just talk to fix it. It's going to take real action and a commitment to change from the top down.
So what does Flores' future hold? Does he get another shot at being a head coach? Does he go back to being a coordinator? Or does he say, fuck this, and walk away from the NFL altogether?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. Brian Flores is a talented coach with a strong will and a clear vision. He's not going to compromise his principles, and he's not going to back down from a challenge. Whether he's coaching in the NFL or doing something else entirely rightly, he's going to make a difference.
I respect the hell out of that. But let's be real. The NFL needs him more than he needs the NFL. They need to wake the fuck up and realize that guys like Flores are the future of the league.
I agree. The league needs more diversity, more innovation, and more coaches who are willing to challenge the status quo. Brian Flores represents all of those things.
So what do you think? Where does Flores end up? And what does his story tell us about the state of the NFL? So we just talked about how the league needs more guys like Flores. Think they're ready for someone like him?
Good question.
The dude isn't afraid to shake things up and call people out on their bullshit.
The NFL is very traditional, risk-averse, likes to keep things predictable and avoid controversy.
Right.
Flores is a disruptor, not afraid to challenge the status quo or speak truth to power.
And he's not going to kiss anyone's ass to get a job. He knows his worth and won't be afraid to walk away if the situation isn't right.
Exactly. That makes him both a very attractive and potentially risky hire. Some teams might see his outspokenness as a liability.
And others might see it as a sign of strength and conviction.
Right.
Let's say some team does take a chance on him. What are the chances he can actually turn things around and build a winning program?
Depends on the situation. He needs a team with a solid foundation, a supportive front office, and a quarterback who can execute his vision. He also needs time to implement his system and build a culture of accountability.
So he's not going to be some overnight miracle worker.
No.
It's going to take time and patience.
It will, and he's going to need to learn from his mistakes in Miami. Be more adaptable and willing to compromise when necessary. He can't afford to alienate his players or his front office.
But he also can't let them walk all over him. He needs to stay true to his principles.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance. He needs to find a team that's willing to give him the freedom to coach his way, but also understands the importance of collaboration and communication.
So it sounds like finding the right fit is going to be crucial for his success.
Without a doubt, the wrong team could set him up for failure, while the right team could provide him with a platform to become one of the most successful coaches in the league.
It's all a big gamble, really, but that's what makes it so exciting.
It is. Brian Flores' story is far from over. He's a fascinating figure who's already made a significant impact on the NFL, both on and off the field. It's going to be interesting to see what he does next.
Whether he's coaching on the sidelines or fighting for change from the outside, he's a force to be reckoned with.
I couldn't agree more. Brian Flores is a reminder that talent and hard work can only take you so far. Sometimes you need to stand up for what you believe in, even if it means risking everything. He's a trailblazer who's paving the way for a more diverse and equitable NFL. And his story is an inspiration to us all.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's it for this week. We'll be back next week with another deep dive into the world of sports later.